Are you upset about the lack of affordable new cars? Well, you have no one to blame except for yourself.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like that.
Oh. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Trunk Talk. My name is Charlotte.
And I'm Gabby.
And this is the podcast where we talk about everything in the automotive industry, and we do it in the back of a trunk. What are we sitting in today?
Today is a 2025 Kia Carnival EX, and this is quite literally the opposite of the vehicles we're talking about today.
Oh, so if this is the opposite, this is a minivan, what are we talking about today then?
We don't got cheap cars anymore, not new at least.
Nope.
So, of course, there used to be the Honda Fit, the Kia Rio, the Hyundai Accent. All of those vehicles were priced at one point under $20,000 Canadian. We're based in Canada, by the way, you guys. Those cars don't exist anymore. Unless you buy used, you're just not finding a car like that on a new car lot, new car rate, with no vehicle history. It's sad, but true. And today we're gonna break down why that is and why you guys made this happen. Just kidding.
Come on, guys.
Just kidding. So we know that these cars have disappeared from lots, and it's not just the Kia Hyundai side of things. Like I said, the Honda Fit is another vehicle that's gone. The Chevy Spark, I'm pretty sure that used to be classified as the cheapest new
MSRP,
car.
yeah.
Yeah, seriously, cheapest new car you could get, which sounds like a great deal, right? Why aren't so many people jumping on a cheap new car? Well, today's day, not a lot of people want economy cars. They're perfect for commuters, but everyone seems to want a larger crossover SUV type vehicle. I don't get it, but apparently you guys do. And we see that on our videos as well too. We film car walkthroughs of the new Kia and Hyundai lineup. There's definitely more interest in things like the Hyundai Kona, the Kia Seltos, but we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah.
So these cars have completely disappeared from the new car lineup of almost every single manufacturer. I seriously don't think anyone makes a vehicle under $20,000 Canadian brand new. It doesn't exist anymore. So that leaves a huge market out for people that are looking for a cheap, affordable vehicle that don't necessarily need all the space that a crossover SUV has. And that's a bummer. That's really upsetting. And why did they disappear, Charlotte?
Well, a lot of it is going to come down to market preferences. And well, truthfully, there's a ton of different reasons. There's both outside and there's exterior and internal factors as to why, people choose or manufacturers choose not to make these vehicles anymore, but a lot of it is going to come down just to market preference. So in Canada, 1 in 5 Canadians are actually choosing a small commuter vehicle, or literally just a sedan in general, with 1 in 5 actually, the second of that 1 in 5 is choosing a truck. So the bulk of people are really choosing trucks or SUVs. No one is really picking those economy cars, so why are manufacturers going to produce vehicles that people just aren't buying?
Yeah.
Now, I know it's not going to be like that all over the world, in Europe when you have significantly smaller cities, smaller areas that you're working with, but here in North America, that is definitely the case. And when you look around, what do you see on the road?
Big
Big
vehicles.
trucks, big SUVs.
Yes.
We're really coming away from that whole sedan market. Instead, we're seeing the resurgence of the introduction, I'll say, not the resurgence, of the crossover.
Yep, absolutely. You look at a vehicle 20 years, let's say, I don't know, Ford Ranger, for example. An early 2000s Ford Ranger versus a current model, oh my gosh, that might as well just be a half-ton truck. That is a huge vehicle compared to what it used to be. And obviously there's laws because of that. I mean, those vehicles are doing much better in crash tests and whatnot.
Yes.
So it is a safety thing, but it's also, people are shifting for larger vehicles. They want a big machine. And I personally don't get it, but
I think that people want them, number one, and like we've talked about this in previous episodes too, is just like sometimes the status or the lifestyle that the vehicle that you drive can portray. A lot of people want that, like the bigger is better, the bigger it is, the more tech, the more safety. People know that this is an expensive vehicle and I can drive it. So a lot of like brand perception does have to do a little bit with, why we're not seeing this anymore and why people are gravitating towards that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, kind of crazy.
But it really leaves an open hole for those who just want a cheap car to get them from point A to point
Yeah,
B.
absolutely.
Because there are some people, we see it with customers all the time. Some people need all the bells and whistles and they want a specific color, specific car, and they know everything that they want and it has to be that way or else it's a deal breaker. We also have some people come in, they're like, yeah, I just need a car to go to work.
Yeah, and neither way is wrong. It just depends on like what fits your lifestyle, what fits your budget too. So I don't know, it's kind of crazy that we're seeing so many things change in the car market when like you'd always kind of think that cars have been around because it's always what you've seen, and now it's totally changing.
Yeah, and while affordable vehicles are no longer under $20,000, there are still some affordable cars in our lineup. So for a very long time, I mean, we have the Elantra and we have the Kia Forte. Now the Kia Forte has just been, I shouldn't say replaced, but renovated. It's now called the Kia K4, and it's significantly larger, and it is also more costly. However, this is going to be the cheapest vehicle in our lineup, and it's already priced at just over $23,000.
Yeah, $23,995 is the MSRP.
But in the past, you used to be able to get a Kia Forte bare bones basic with a manual transmission, heated seats, and touchscreen, and that was pretty much about it. Now, the amount of driver assistance and safety functions that are in the base model Kia K4 is ridiculous, but that is a good thing.
Well, and that's kind of what you have to evaluate too, is I'm so glad you said manual gearbox too, because we actually don't have the option for a more economical vehicle that has a manual transmission. The only option in the Kia Hyundai side of things is the Elantra N, which is a performance-based vehicle.
That's not an affordable
It's not an affordable vehicle, and that's a 6-speed. But other than that is, you know, when we look at our base models too, when we do have sedans introduced, and honestly even with the SUV, with SUVs as well, crossovers, is you are getting a more equipped base model because people just don't want the bare bones anymore.
Yeah.
So, and everything that you add on obviously is going to cost something. Like the fact that you're no longer doing manual, obviously an automatic is going to be more difficult to, or not more difficult, but more costly to put into a vehicle and then to buy. You know, having adaptive cruise control with stop and go, that's going to be more expensive. But people want these, it almost seems like a masquerade because people are like, oh yeah, like it's the introductory trim, but it's got all of these features, so it doesn't actually seem like an introductory trim.
Exactly.
By terms of like safety and stuff like that, which is good, don't get me wrong, like I'm not knocking safety, but you have to obviously admit the cost that comes with it.
Yeah, and let's bring it back to the Kia side of things. Charlotte and I personally work at a Kia dealership. I worked on the sales side. The Kia Rio had an $800 profit margin. There's not a lot we could do with that over there. You know what I mean?
I want $2,000 off.
We can't do that.
Realistically, it was $800 on a good day. This is really giving you guys some tea on profit margins, but.
Because how long did that car sit? They weren't exactly a top seller, you know what I mean? Especially if it's a base model Kia Rio. They weren't exactly in overly high demand, and obviously that's a perfect car for someone.
I loved it. I had a 2018, I loved mine.
But yours was fully loaded, so a fully loaded entry-level vehicle is already out of a different kind of range, you know what I mean? And it's great that you mentioned a fully loaded, I guess I mentioned it, but a fully loaded entry-level vehicle, for example, the Kia Rio, how much is it costing the manufacturer to add all that tech and safety into their smallest, most economical car? It's not feasible. It doesn't make sense. They don't want to absorb that kind of impact on a vehicle that they know isn't going to be a volume seller and doesn't have that much margin.
But also, like when you take a look at it from the manufacturer point as well, is obviously in the past, 4 years, the world has gone through some things. There's been some shortages. There's been some supply chain interruptions, and when you take a look at that too, is I think it really did push manufacturers to take a look at their vehicles and what they were producing, because when it comes in terms of the semiconductor shortage, is manufacturers are going to manufacture the vehicles that sell, the vehicles that are able to make the company money, the dealerships money, which is kind of why we started, seeing more top trims come out. It was all the SUVs. We weren't really seeing a lot of cars per se coming out because you want to make money. You don't want to end the year in the red.
Absolutely not. And no, it totally makes sense. Another thing is regulations. So I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but vehicles, like I said, they're getting larger, but they're also coming equipped with a lot more standard safety functions. And like I mentioned about our compact entry-level vehicles before, it's sometimes not feasible to add in all that tech to meet regulations on a car that just isn't making the company money.
The thing is, like, that's not necessarily the manufacturer's standpoint. Like, a lot of them do have some safety, a safety suite that's across the board, but that has to do with the country it's being sold in as well. Is there certain requirements that have to be met, and the manufacturers have to abide by them, and it can be different, obviously, from country to country, but it's going to cost. And that's why you're going to see changing costs from country to country too.
So we know that not a lot of people were buying our entry-level economy cars. We know that manufacturers don't want to make them because, number one, they're not really making money on it because people aren't buying them. But number three, what are the alternatives? Because there is still a market of people that want just a vehicle.
Crossovers!
Small, compact crossovers. They're all the talk right now, all the rage. Everyone's doing it because we have no other choice. But realistically, we have some fantastic, and not just Kia and Hyundai, every manufacturer is coming out with fantastic compact crossovers. There's the Corolla Cross, there's the Hyundai Kona, there's the Kia Seltos. All these vehicles can get you a lot more space than, let's say, a Kia Rio or a Hyundai Accent, for example. And the price point, while it's definitely higher, it might be justifiable.
Yeah, I think that it definitely is, and that's a lot of things that people say. They come in and they're like, oh, like I want the fuel efficiency, but I want the comfort and the visibility of an SUV, and it's like, okay, well, we can actually direct you. We have, vehicles that fit into that category now too, because obviously SUVs are more expensive to maintain and to fill up at the pump. So these compact crossovers, they kind of cover a wide variety of bases.
Yes.
And they're really, I don't want to say they're becoming the new commuter vehicle, but you're seeing a lot more of them on the road than you would a typical sedan.
We love using this word, but I find they're far more transitional.
Yeah.
Transitional.
Woo.
Word of the day. Word of this year.
Word of the century?
Once we found out that it's sometimes a better option to just buy a car that you think will fit your lifestyle in the coming years and just what fits your lifestyle right now, saves you money in the long run. You don't have to go through the purchase journey again.
You've already taken the depreciation hit.
You already took the depreciation hit. Just keep rolling with it. But seriously, a compact crossover, small SUV, something like that, or even just a larger sedan. Speaking of the death of the sedans, that's another podcast episode topic.
Yeah.
But that one I'm really sad about. But that vehicle can fit your lifestyle longer, making you not need to buy a new vehicle, and it's still fairly efficient. So you can still do your everyday commuting, and then if you plan on maybe getting pets, adding to your family, just moving around, picking up a new hobby that requires a vehicle with more capacity, it can do all of those things. So wears multiple hats.
Yeah, which I think is fantastic. And a lot of the time too is, you're going to see lower rates for vehicles in that area than you would of something a higher, more expensive SUV as well. Because that is one thing that we're seeing a difference in is interest rates.
Yeah.
Whether you're leasing, whether you're financing, the rates have have definitely gone up since where we were 4 years ago. And you kind of have to account for that in your car payment as well.
Yeah. And I feel like at the end of the day, they just don't make them like they used to. And
I knew that was coming.
they don't make them like they used to, and it's like that for everything. Everything was less expensive 10 years ago.
Well, yeah.
It's inflation.
Yeah, and it sucks.
A dollar's not worth the same it was back then.
No.
And that's the way she goes. When you break it down, accounting for inflation, the actual price increase isn't that crazy. It's not that different, especially considering how much more car you get now with your money.
Yeah, I'd still say that a lot of the vehicles that you see, they're good value, but you obviously you have to understand that not everyone can afford every price point.
Absolutely.
Everyone can afford an affordable car, which is why it's good to keep them on the lower
But
scale
affordable
of
is
things.
such a loose term, right?
Exactly, because
Yeah.
it's subjective. It's going to be based on household. It's going to be based on person. It's going to be based on income.
Yeah.
But I think that with every vehicle, especially that we can see on our line of things, has value packed into it for the price tag. So you don't feel like you're, burning your money.
Absolutely. There's no better feeling.
Yeah. I love a money pit.
Affordable, again, is such a loose term. To me, affordable is a $5,000 Facebook Marketplace fund.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nothing hotter than that. But not everyone can really do that, and you don't know what kind of car you're buying with that.
Yeah.
Check out our last podcast about new versus used cars if you want to know more about that topic.
Definitely.
But for new cars, I think we have great value right now in our Kia and Hyundai lineup, but every manufacturer now offers a great small compact SUV.
Yes. Oh, I thought you were gonna continue with the finance or with the payment information there,
let's
and so I
talk
was
payments.
gonna say, oh yeah, and we're starting to see some incentives coming.
No, seriously, incentives are starting back. So that was something that if you told me a year ago or two,
I'd be like,
unheard
what?
of.
Are you kidding me?
Craziness. Back when rates were like 6.99%, things are getting better. So affordability is coming back into play in some senses. And I feel like if there's any point I can make before we end off this topic is you're getting a lot more car.
For your money.
Yeah, absolutely. Both physically, the vehicle is definitely going to be larger. They just keep getting bigger. And way more tech and safety added at its entry trim levels price point.
So let us know what you guys think. Obviously, we're seeing, we tend to think that affordable vehicles, we're not seeing them as much. We are seeing valuable vehicles. And a lot of that has to do with the market. So let us know what your preferences are when it comes to a vehicle. Do you prefer something smaller? Do you like the space? Do you like the tech? Do you like the safety? Let us know because we want to know about it.
Or are you a commuter doing 35 kilometers one way?
It's Gabby.
Almost 100 kilometers a day, almost, and you want a big, heavy truck. Let us know.
That's Gabby. On that note.
On that note, see you guys. Thanks for
Bye.
watching.